Hi guys, this is Frenchie, and my friend that is a beginner colorist asked me to do a whole video about nodes, and I think this is a great insight. So today we're gonna do the ultimate beginner guide for nodes. In this video, I'm gonna go through all the important nodes you need to know as a beginner. The serial node, the parallel nodes, the layer mixer nodes, and the outside nodes. And at the same time, I'm going to show you how to implement it in a node tree for you to follow along on a real practical case. And so then you can also have an example of node tree you can follow. I'm making this video because when I was a beginner, I was having a lot of troubles to know where to put my nodes in which order. So knowing now how it interacts with my other nodes in my node tree, then I could really see my growth, and it was a real before and after in my grading, because now I could intellectualize where I should put my nodes in my node tree to achieve the best result possible for my image. So if I can help you to level up, my mission is accomplished. So let's go to the tutorial. So here we are guys in our timeline. Because this is a beginner level of me explaining nodes, we are going to stay in a Rec 709 color space. I know that you guys sometimes love to use Davinci wide gamut, but for this example, because I don't want to overcomplicate things, we're gonna stay in the Rec 709 color space. Here we are in our timeline. This is in our color page. So something you need to know in Davinci Resolve is that unlike other softwares, Davinci Resolve is having a node-based logic when it comes to color grading. So instead of using layers, we are using nodes. So just a bit of a tour of the interface before we are jumping into the nodes. So you can find your node in the node tree area, which is just right next to your image. If you don't see it, if you arrive with your image like this or like this, you can find it when you are clicking nodes. And if you are clicking it again, it can disappear. So if it's disappearing, please just click the button nodes and it's gonna appear again. We are having our node tree in the node area, and so here I can create multiple nodes to create my grade. And so what you need to know about nodes is essentially where you're going to make all your adjustments possible for the grade. So for example, right, I can use my primaries to raise my lift, my gain, my gamma, etc, etc. But also I can change the saturation. I can also do adjustments in my color wrapper, etc, etc. Play with my curves, and do all sorts of adjustments. So you can use all the tools available in Davinci Resolve in just one node. You just need to be conscious that some adjustments have a priority over another adjustment within a node. So for example, if I do a modification, let's say I'm just gonna raise my gain and just crank my lift, for example, and I'm gonna put my noise reduction. Within this adjustment, my noise reduction will be prioritized over my modification in my primary color wheels. So I'm going to put you the graph of the priority that the adjustment have within the node. You don't have to learn it by heart. It's just good to be aware of what's going on within the node, because then you can rearrange your adjustments in one node or multiple nodes to fit what you want to do in the image. This is basically what's happening in the node. You can see that we have also a line that is linking the node to these dots over here. So this green dot and this green dot. So the first dot is representing the input, so the source, and this dot is representing the output. Okay, so for a node to function, it needs to actually be linked from the source and link to the output. Example, if I put some color boost and I unlink my output, then I won't have the preview of my grade on my screen. But if I link the output, then the information is being outputted, and so then I can have the preview of what I've done. Here, if I unlink the input, because I am not linked to any source, then I don't have the preview of what I've done, because the software doesn't know where to take from to make the adjustment, okay? So when I'm relinking back, then I can have the preview, okay? So this is what you need to understand, where like actually the change that you will do within your node tree will be in a sort of a cascade. So let's talk about the most common node, which is the serial node, and this is actually the node that is the less complicated to understand. So the serial node is actually the normal node. So to create a serial node, you're gonna just Alt S like this, and you can create multiple nodes after the other. Over here, you are having numbers that are just in the corner of the nodes. So these numbers essentially is showing you the order of the flow of information that is passing through the nodes. To differentiate with the layer logic, everything that I do in the first node is going to be fed to the second node, and then everything that I do in the second node is going to be fed to the third node, and then fed to the fourth node. So let's say I'm just going to put the image in a Rec 709 space, so then we can judge better what's going on in the node tree. So for this, I'm going to go to my effects and type color space transform. For this footage, I have a Sony footage, so I'm just going to select the Sony S-Gamut 3 and the Sony S-Log 3. In output color space, we're in Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. So then like I have now a Rec 709 vision of what I have. And here we're going to see what's the impact of the cascade over our node. So let's say I want to balance the image. So I'm just going to go to my offset, raise it a bit, so then I raise the contrast also. Then I'm just gonna create a tiny bit of contrast. This could be nice, and a nice roll off. So this is my balance. And in the second node, let's say I want to key the skin. So I'm just gonna key the skin here. So up, I'm gonna key the skin, and I'm gonna affect the skin. So I'm gonna affect it like very intensely for us to see the effect of the cascade node, okay? So my selection, when I select, this is taking what I've done in the first node in the first place, okay? And here in the third node, because I find it a bit too warm, I'm just gonna cool it down like this. So I'm just gonna put some names so then you can see what we have done. So this is the balance. So this is the skin, and this is the temperature. If I want to move this node before my second node, you're gonna see that it has quite a detrimental effect to it. And so I'm just gonna move around this temp to this node, and you're gonna see what's the effect. So now that I move my temp before my skin, now we have a complete different result because it affects my key. Now I don't have anything keyed anymore because my key was essentially made thanks to the warmth of my balance. But if I take out the warmth of my balance, then my key doesn't work, and I have a complete different result from what we had before. So this example is quite extreme, but show you the importance of knowing where to put your nodes in your node tree. Every changes that you are doing in a node will waterfall to the other node, okay? So there is also other types of nodes that you can use at your advantage if, for example, you don't want to use the cascade logic. Okay, so we're just gonna go to a blank Canva, and I already prepared some circle here. I'm just gonna show you with the vector red, green, and blue. Okay, so I am in a special node called the parallel node. So you can see the effect of the parallel node with my three discs of colors. So here we have the red color, here we have the blue color, and here we have the green color. What essentially the parallel node is doing is that it's taking the same source and feed the same output. So then, like, if I do a node after, this node will take the mix of the parallel node. And so you can see that my elements are mixed together equally. You're gonna use this kind of node when you need to be fed by the same node. So for example, I would use this kind of node to do some relight techniques, or I would use this node at the beginning of my node tree to have the same source for my primaries and my secondaries. This is essentially the parallel node. I'm going to show you what you can do in the parallel node. What I do normally is that I'm going to create a parallel node at the beginning of my node tree, and here I'm just going to call this a balance, because I always do roll off, balance, and contrast. Here this is my roll off, and here this is my contrast. And over here this is gonna be my hues, because this would be my secondaries and this would be my density. Okay, so we're gonna do this together. Why I am operating in this way? It's because over here I have all my primaries, and I want my primaries to be fed by the log, because the source that you see over here is this image. This is in log because it hasn't been affected by the CST. You can see that the color space transform that is making everything in Rec 709 is at the end of the node tree. So then my balance, my roll off, my contrast, and after my secondaries that are hue and density won't be affected by anything, because it will be fed by the source. Okay, so let's do the balance. We're just gonna do it together. I always go to the HDR wheels because the global wheel is working kind of the same way as an exposure tool. So I like it because it always preserves the contrast. For the roll off, I would stay in the HDR wheel and I would go down a bit with the light, because you can see that I put less light, I have less shiny areas on her face, and I way prefer the contrast this way. And so now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to just try to see what I can do for the hues. If you can see, there is a lot of greenish things that is happening. I will go to my color wrapper, have a bit more hue resolution, maybe 16, and I will take my yellow vector, because if I go over the wall, for example, you can see that is around the 2 yellow vectors, and I'm just gonna desaturate my yellow. So you can do the same if you want to do it on the hue versus sat. You can do the same with the yellow vector and go down with it. Okay, I do it with the color wrapper just like because it's faster and easier. And I would take this also and maybe a bit down. So you can see that this hue node is changing drastically the image and is pretty good because it's straight away fed by the source. So I am not restrained by a node or a change on a node to do this adjustment. For density, I'm just gonna go to my color slice and maybe I'm gonna raise a tiny bit, a really tiny bit, the saturation of the skin, and let's see if we can just have a tiny bit more density on the skin, like that. Perfect, 0.2 is nice. And I'm gonna remove a bit more yellow just to have something way more neutral that we had. And so you can see, so this is the density, so this is before, this is after, and it's working pretty well for my image. Okay, so Contrast, I would put it after my balance because the contrast is also a primary adjustment. And so I will go to my HDR wheel and I will go to the contrast and raise a tad. Why I go to my HDR wheel for the contrast is just, that's my own preference. It's because when I raise the contrast, it doesn't move my colors around. So this is at the beginning of our node tree with the parallel node. I'm sorry guys, my camera stopped. So I was saying that also something to know is that on the parallel node, you can create multiple inputs. So if I want to create more inputs, I can just press Alt P and I can create all the inputs I want. So this is all for the parallel node, and the parallel node is actually a very, very useful tool. First, I want to talk about the cousin of the parallel node, and this is the layer mixer node. So the layer mixer node has this particularity that if I morph my parallel node into a layer mixer node, it has a complete different way of blending the nodes together. Okay, so the parallel node is blending everything equally. Okay, there is no priority, there's no rules, you know, into the mixing. Here in the layer mixer node, there is a hierarchy. Okay, so you can see that the node that is the most important is the one that is at the bottom of the layer node. If, for example, I do another node, then you're going to see that my white canvas is going over my circles that I've done over here. Okay? So the node at the bottom is in priority over the node at the top. This is actually what you need to know. So why is it useful for us in color grading to have this? It can be useful because you can prioritize elements over others and avoid you to do very tedious adjustments in your notes. Okay? So for example, right, I have my character. So let's go to our hero shot. I have my character and I want to change her skin. Honestly, I don't really advise to select the skin, but I'm just gonna do it for the example. So what I can do is that I can create a layer mixer. So if you want to create a layer mixer from scratch, it's Alt L, and I'm gonna select the skin. So let's just put skin here. I'm gonna select the skin in the bottom node because the bottom node is priority over my upper node. Okay, so I'm gonna select the skin like this. Do a rough select to show you. Okay, and I'm just gonna change the color of the skin. I just do it with the color wrapper, and I'm gonna make her a tiny bit more, just a tad more pink to compensate for the yellow. And here, this is gonna be our background. And I find the background way too warm. So what I want to do is that I want to say to the layer mixer, my skin is priority over the background. So whatever change I do in the background, then it will be affected on the skin at the last result. So if you can see, if I go to a temperature that is colder, my skin is not affected. If I go pretty far, my skin is still not affected. So I'm just gonna have the environment a bit colder to have something a bit more neutral. And so if you can see, right, then because I find that this is colder, I find that the skin should follow. Just to be a bit more natural, yeah. I easily isolated elements just thanks to the layer mixer node. It is pretty convenient because I could maybe have done this with the magic mask, but the problem is that with the magic mask I need to make sure that there is no other nodes before my magic mask that maybe will make me retrack again and again if I change before, and I would have to make sure that the track is going well and there is no tiny bits that is popping out. I could have also done it with some windows, but then like it would have been more messy. Here I have a clear selection and a clear separation between elements. Also, something to know with the layer mixer is that you have the possibility to choose composite mode. So the composite mode are working in the same way as you can have in Photoshop, After Effects, etc, etc. This is just modes to blend the image. So for example, right, if I just use luminosity, you're gonna see that it will affect my image where I'm gonna keep only technically the contrast of the image. If I choose color, it will keep all the colors that I have because I only have colors in. So you can play with all the blending modes, but what can be very useful for us is that I can have my character over here, and I can say like, okay, I want to put a lot in my image. So let's say I do a lot after my CST. So this lot, I do it after my CST because this lot need to be fed by a Rec 709. Okay, so I take this slot, I just put it in, and I watch what's happening with my image. So what I can do here when I see that my LUT is pretty intense but I like the colors is that I can create a layer mixer node, Alt L. Just to move around your nodes, it's Command and you hold and you just drop it to the other node. What I can say is that, okay, I like the color but I don't like the contrast. I can go to my layer mixer, go to composite mode and just select color. I say to Davinci Resolve, I only want to keep the color of the LUT. And so you can see that this is the composite mode not enable, and this is the composite mode enable. Here we have the contrast plus the colors of the LUT. Here we only have the color of the LUT. So it is pretty cool because then like what I can do then is that I can put back then the LUT here, and this is going to be my contrast. And what we can affect if we go to our node key and our gain, we can affect the contrast of our LUT. So here, this is not priority, but it will affect our layer mixer. And so then what I can do is that I can regulate my contrast and have a contrast that is lower than the original, but that still is not too far. I can put it at 50%, and then I can have a tailored look just with splitting the LUT and splitting the logic of the LUT. Okay, so this technique with LUT only work with creative LUT. If you don't know what is a creative LUT, I've done a video about LUT, you can watch it. This is essentially what a layer mixer is doing, and layer mixer can be really powerful in your node tree. After this, we have a node that actually I use quite a lot and that will tidy up our grade, and this is the outside node. So let's say I want to have vignette around my character. So for this, I will go to my window and I will create a power window around my character. I'm just gonna do a bit wide, and I'm gonna bring her up with the curve, so just to have a bit more light. Okay, so this is the vignette. If you see, I'm at the end of my node tree. So this vignette is after my CST because my vignette is an effect and I want it to take the characteristics of the Rec 709 color space. So I raise my character over here, and what I can do, because normally to do vignettes, then I will have to create another power window and ask Resolve the outside of my power window to then darken around. It's a lot of steps. What I can do, so here you see this is my selection with the vignette, is that I can right click, go to add node, and go to add outside node. And so add outside node is essentially the contrary of what we have done in the previous node. And so then instead of having my area over here selected, I'm having the area around her selected. And so then I can just go with my curves, go down, and have a very organic vignette. And so you can see this is the power of the vignette. So this is without the vignette and this is with the vignette, and it really recenter everything around her. just for my professional sake, and I'm a bit OCD with this, I still find the skin a bit too warm. So I'm just gonna go to the skin and I'm gonna put the temperature a bit lower. Yeah, like this. I way prefer like that actually. This is the final look. So if you can see, okay, let's see what we have done together and what we learned together. Let me just have more space so you can see the node tree. So what we have done together is that we put the CST. The CST is the base of everything. You need the CST to know what to grade in the image, because this is essentially what the camera saw on set. If you have no clue of what I'm talking about, I've made a video about color management. You can check it out. I'm just going to put the notification over here. So we've done our CST. And so what we have done also is that we created a parallel node that is allowing us to have the source to feed our primaries, which are here. So which is the roll-off, the balance, and the contrast. And at the same time feeding our hue and our density, which are our secondaries, to mix them together equally. And so this is why I love doing this. It's just because I'm having a lot of freedom, because I'm doing the adjustment from the log. After this, we have done the skin with the layer mixer technique. So the skin over here, I've selected the skin and I made the background a bit colder. So then we have a coherent grade, and I find it pretty nice. Just something that you have to be mindful when you are selecting the skin with the selection tool is that it can create noise. So for this, what you can do is that you can blur the radius, and so then it will remove the noise, or you can denoise the image. Okay, so you have to be really mindful of this. So the background made everything neutral and didn't affect the skin. So this is the power of the layer mixer node. And also we created another layer mixer node with a composite mode inside, which is on color, just for us to use our LUT and to regulate the contrast of the LUT. And to finish, we have done a vignette to tie up everything together and to have the focus on our character. Okay, so I hope it was clear. Of course, I didn't go over the split combiner node or the key mixer node, just because it's very advanced. I just wanted to keep it very simple for a beginner. So I hope you like the video and you understand more the nodes and the power of the nodes, and also the importance of the order of the nodes in the node tree. So I hope it helped, and I see you next time, guys. Thank you for tuning in until the end, and see you.